Welcome everybody. Today this session is about the 1052 lease accounting TTEC. Myself and Kapngam Ketsap and Yang Chen will talk about the gross lease enhancement and as well as other lease accounting enhancement that we did for this release. The agenda for today, I'm gonna go over the enhancement that we did around the monthly partial payment on the Generate Payment Schedule wizard. And Yang will go over the ability to create the payment schedule using the Generate Payment Schedule wizard on the lease clauses, as well as talking about the gross lease enhancement. But for this session, he is going to focus on the changes that he did in the forms and also talk about the setup that we have to do on the application settings record. You can follow up with the gross lease enhancement in the upcoming TTEC session. It will be the lease accounting TTEC session on the ASC 840 enhancement, as well as the ASC 842 enhancements. For the first topic of this session is enhancement that we did around the monthly partial payment schedule. So for the upcoming, on up until 1051, the partial payment on the monthly frequency payment schedule, it was calculated based on the calendar month. Meaning if your payment start date is not on the first day of the month, the system will calculate the partial first payment, as well as if your payment doesn't end at the end of the month, it will also calculate the partial last payment. But starting 1052, we learned that that scenario is very limited. So we are enhancing that so that the monthly payment schedule can now created by using the full payment start date to determine whether that payment is a calendar month or not, or it has the partial or not. We also provide a question to let the user decide if their first payment is prorated or not, as well as enable the payment due on to allow the user to select when the payment should be paid. Right now there are three options. So user can select either using the specific day of the payment. Also, they can do like select to be paid on the first day of the period or the last day of the period. The changes on the Generate Payment Schedule wizard, if you go to the Payments tab on the Real Estate Lease or Asset Lease, Payment Schedules section, and click on the Generate Payment Schedules action. You'll see that there'll be new field in the Payment Parameters section. The new field that we added is a question field. The question is asked, is the first payment prorated? There'll be yes or no answer. There are also some fields that we relabel it. The first one would be the full payment start date. The label was period start date. So now we changed it. And if you answer the question, is the first payment prorated, as yes, the from date will be visible. And that from date, it was labeled as the first payment start date. So now I'm going to go over to the system to show you what we changed and how we use it. So I'm going to go back to the system. Here, I already create like a shell real estate lease record. So now if I go to my payment tabs here and payment schedule section, click on that Generate Payment Schedule action there. Let me log into the TRIRIGA, my TRIRIGA again. And I already have the record created for that. Let me find that record. So this is the record. If I go to Payments tab, Payment Schedule section, and Generate Payment Schedules action there. So this form is open, and look at the payment parameters here. So if I set frequency as monthly, so now we can choose, the user can choose when is the full payment start date. So if they don't have any prorated payment and their full payment start date is not starting on the first day of the month, they could just pick, like, let's say 1/15/2016 is when they're going to pay their full payment. And is the first payment prorated? They said no, they don't have any. And then let's say it's like $1,000 a month that they have to pay to the landlord. And you see that payment due date, there will be 3 options: first day, last day, or specific day. So if it's a specific day, the payment due day field here will be visible. If they pick the first day or last day, they cannot pick the date, because the system, when they generate the payment line item, it will just know when, it will just set that as a default. But for now, I'm just going to pick specific day of the period. So the payment due date will be defaulted as the full payment start date day. This user can change it if they want to. Like, let's say they want to pay on the 20th of the payment, it's fine as well. But right now I'm gonna leave it as the 15th. So now I'm gonna generate just only one payment schedule, and there's no change in my payment. It will be for 2 years at $1,000 a month. So now you see that payment term will be created from 1/15/2016 until 1/14/2018 based on the payment parameters that I put in this section. When I'm satisfied with this, I just click on that create schedule. And when that is clicked, then we can just close this form. And now you see that the payment schedule is created for the monthly. So if I click into it, the payment schedule record will open, and you see that there will be no partial first payment calculated for me in this case, because my payment start, my full payment start on the 15th. It means that the first month, my payment start on the 15th, and it ends for that month on the February 14th. So it's a full payment of $1,000. So let me close this. And the second scenario that I want to show you is when I have a prorated amount. So I go back to the general payment schedule form here. And again, my frequency is monthly. My full payment is the same on the 15th of the month. But now the question here, is the first payment prorated? I would say yes, because there could be a lease that start full payment on the 15th, but I move into the lease like 5 days before. So let's say I have the prorated amount of prorated days of 5 days. So I move in on the 10th of that month, 2016. And again, the payment is $1,000. And for one payment schedule, just leave that as a specific day for now. And then for 24 months. So when I click on this generate payment schedule, you see that it creates the from date is changed. It was at 1/15 for the previous scenarios. Now it creates from 1/10. And the end date of my payment would be 1/14/2018. So let's see if I click on this create schedule. It will create the payment schedule with the partial first calculation for me. So let's click into this record that we just created. So you see that partial first payment is created from the 10th of January until the 14th of that same month. So that 5 days, it's calculated for me that I have to pay the landlord $161.29 for that period. And the rest of the period, it would be at $1,000. And also the third scenario, you can also create the partial last payment still for the monthly payment. again, I go using the frequency as a monthly. My full payment is still at on the 15th of the January. And now I don't have the first payment prorated. Let's say it's not prorated, it's not partial, at $1,000 a month. And for one payment schedule, again, 24 months, no change. And click on this generate payment schedule here. And now you see that it's this section is editable. So you can change this to date to be, let's say, instead of 14, that month I extended for like half a month or something. So it will be on the 31 of January. That's when I end my lease. And click on this create schedule. Now on my payment schedule, it will have the calculation of my partial last payment of that half a month extra. So you see that from 15th of January 2018 until the end of that month, I have that $548 that I have to pay out to the landlord because of extra half of the month. Okay? These are the changes that we changed so far on the general payment schedule. And I'm just going to go back to my presentation here. So on the changes that we have on the payment schedule, we did hide the payment, the current period start date, but that we show in the payment schedule section. We no longer show it for this release, as well as the query on the real estate lease and asset lease. We also hide that field from the payment schedule query. So that was it for my enhancement of the partial payment schedule for monthly. So next, Young is going to go over to the ability to generate the payment schedule through the payment schedule wizard on the lease class. Young, you want to take over?
Okay, thank you, NCAP. Let me start sharing. Okay, so I'll be going over generate payment schedule wizard on the clause. Let me go right in. So in 10.4.2, we had an ability here to had to remove the ability to add a payment schedule clause to the clause due to some issue of payment instructions. So after getting more information, the sales team required us to get us generate a payment schedule wizard here for convenience-wise. So we, in 10.5.2 now, we are adding it back in. So this will allow the ability to create schedules again. So let me just do a quick demo of this. So like, let me come into app. So I have a record that's already created for this demo purpose. In our real estate lease clause, if we come into a clause, you can see when we add a clause, where before in our payment schedule, we only had find and remove after 10.4.2. But now in 10.5.2, we added this generate payment schedule. So let's create a clause of percent rent. So if you come here when we do a generate payment schedule, like how NCAP mentioned, all the functionality of generate payment schedule wizard will come through here. But let's just make a monthly frequency here. And let's do a start date of 7/1/116. And let's just say $1,000. Whoops. $1,000, and run schedules and 12 months. And let's just add this schedule to the clause. So once the schedule is added, you'll see that now it's associated to the clause. So when we create this clause, let me close this. So when we create this clause, you'll see now that our payment schedule is associated to this clause. And this payment schedule is also going to be associated to our payments tab for that rent. So as you can see, the ability got added back so that we can create payment schedules quickly on the clause now. So let's go back to the presentation. So for gross lease enhancement in 10.2, this is more of the setup and form changes that I'll be going through. And like NCAP mentioned, we will be discussing more detail for ASC 840 and 842 in the next demos. So in the application changes, we had rent component assumptions for gross lease. We were advised that we needed a percentage insurance field, which we didn't have before. So now, if people are familiar with gross lease, there was already is maintenance, is tax, and is other, but now we've broken out to another field called is percentage, is insurance. So I'll show that in the demo later. And then also to mention in our accounting tab, we also have this rent component assumption section once a gross lease is selected. So at percent, this field, same thing. In the application setting, we added into is percent is for the rent component assumption. And one thing to know that this section is now editable when a lease is in draft, and it will be read-only when the lease is revised. Okay. And then the next change that we did is in the assumption audit log, same thing, there's a rent component assumption, therefore we had to add this is insurance field there, so so that we can capture when initial adoption or reassessment is there, it could be changed. Okay, so let's go into the demo. So hold on here. Let me go back, leave this. And I have a gross lease setup record created. Let me find that. Okay. I think it was in the other environment, but okay, let's create one real quick here. So let me just show the application setting first. So inside the application setting, in our lease accounting tab, we'll see that rent component assumption default value is here, and we added this. So for example, let's just create some percentages. When we shipped out default, it's going to be all zero. So an application admin will be consulting with your lease accountant to see what are the default values to be applied. So for time being, let's apply 5%, 6%, and 3 and 1. Oops. Save the record. And as base rent will get calculated to 85%. So let's go back to the contract. go back to lease. Oh, I had demo test. Let me try again. Demo test, monthly gross. Interesting. Okay, so let's stay on. Let me create this real quick. So let's create this 16. Oops. Okay, put my user in. Okay, so let me come back here to make sure. So this is going to be a gross lease, so we need the lease category to be a full gross or modified gross. So once we select this, we create. So now when we come to our accounting tab, and let's say if this accounting is going to be an operating, let me save that. You'll see that rent component assumption here will come through. Oh, but did I save the application setting record, right? Okay, so I think it's because when I first initially created, the creation already got created. So hold on here. Let me go back to my record. Okay, so let me recreate that. Hold on here. Sorry about this. So let's see, gross lease 2. Gross, full gross. And then, oops. Okay, all right. Let me come to create this. So as you can see, the previous record, when I opened it already on, it didn't come through the application settings. The new record, it will come through. So as you can see, application setting will default the values on the lease. So 563 is what we inputted in the application setting. So that's this section here. And then, like I mentioned in the assumption audit log, when we come to assumption audit log here, we also have is insurance is populated here with the values. So that's for gross lease as a setup for now, and then we'll go into more detail in the next T-Tech sections. So let me go back into the PowerPoint. So in release notes, for 10.5.2, we have a lot of release notes that needs to have more details, and please make sure that you guys go into and review those release notes for these important releases. So also in our Knowledge Center, there are some articles that we have that are in the Knowledge Center, so definitely please take a look for this 10.5.2 release. I think that's it. Thank you, everyone. If you have any other questions or comments, please let us know. Thank you. Bye-bye.